So hopefully this will be quick and painless. I do appreciate all of you taking the time. Has everyone received the questions at this point? And anyone not received the questions? Roger, you got the questions?
Yep, yep, I got the question. You bet.
Right. So we can just sort of move on through this fairly quickly. If anyone's good, I'm going to be posting this online afterwards. So I'm just going to do a little introduction here. So we have right now we have 5 of the 7 candidates for the Ward 7G. All right, help me with the pronunciation, guys. You've been probably doing this now for a while. I go with Sipiwiyiniwak.
Here's a technique that can help. This might help. I just want to share, okay? The nice thing about Cree language is the syllables are actually straightforward. So if you look at the actual word, you know the middle syllable yi, like yi, just skip that. Read the rest as it is. So C, P, we, and then skip the other one. Ni walk. C, P, we, ni walk. Just skip the yi in the middle. That's it.
Okay, but that's not obvious.
I know.
So thank you for telling me that. I've now learned a little bit of Cree. All right. So getting back to this is a debate for the councillor candidates for Ward 7G, Sipiwiyiniwak. So yes, there's gonna be an AI recording this, by the way, so that it helps me with the transcription later. Right. So all right, so we're just gonna do it. I haven't really figured out order yet. Because I see you on my screen, I'm gonna start Daryl. Actually, order could be tricky here. So I don't want to keep going with the same order each time. So I'll skip forward one each time. So I'm going to begin with political affiliation. So the question here is, one of the best ways to understand a person's likely future actions is by looking at their past actions and affiliations. To that end, could you please let us know if you are or have you ever been a member of any provincial or federal political party? And if so, which ones and for how long? All right, so I'm going to start with you, Daryl, then I'll go to Danny, then Giselle, then Roger. Then,
Sure.
Yeah, and who have I missed there? Noah. Yeah. All right, so go ahead, Daryl.
Sure. Hey, one question, Vince. Would you like me to do the introduction?
Each candidate will have 2 minutes for the introduction. Boy, you can tell I'm not an MC guy at all. Let's do that. Absolutely. So I'm going to start a little timer, guys, and if you go over, I really hope you don't, but I'll if I have to, I'll just mute the mic. But I hope we don't have to get to that. So because I don't know how to mute, so that would buy you a few minutes of time right there. So Daryl, go right ahead. And
Great. Okay. Well, good morning. Hi, Vince. Hi, everyone here. My name is Daryl Friesen. I'm running for City Council in Ward Sipiwiyiniwak. To the other candidates, congratulations for running and having the desire to make this city better. I was born and raised on a grain and livestock farm in Swan River, Manitoba. And from a very early age, learned about responsibility, determination, and hard work. After grade 12, I moved to Vancouver for post-secondary and began a career in the printing and packaging industry, selling supplies to general printers and sign shops. With my job, I was transferred to Edmonton in 1992, and shortly after I moved here, I remember the famous saying from a former mayor, "We live in the greatest city, in the greatest province, in the greatest country in the world," and that saying definitely has always stuck with me. In 1998, I founded Jet Label and Packaging and built it to become Western Canada's largest privately held label printer. I sold the business and left in 2024 after a successful transition to the new ownership group. Currently, I'm involved at an ownership and director level in a few businesses, which have all become side-of-the-desk projects consuming only a few hours a week. As you contemplate electing someone for the new city council, which is in effect the board of directors, leading and the organization has a budget in excess of $4 billion. I've always focused on who, not how. When a large project or problem arises, really, who is the right person for the job? I have the time, education, energy, and expertise and experience in a positive mindset to see me through for the next 4 years. Most importantly, I have a wonderful, loving, and supportive family in this journey. My wife, Ginger, of 23 years, and two accomplished, smart, and at times challenging daughters. Both of them are taking full course loads at the U of A this fall. Our connection to this community runs deep, with my wife having spent her entire life in this ward, and I've spent the last 23 years here. I would love the opportunity to serve as your city council. I've had a chance to extensively travel and do business in many different countries. My commitment to lifelong learning and my business experience gives me the confidence that I believe I'd be a great choice for the city council. Great. Thanks, Vince.
Thank you. You're 20 seconds over. So
Oh,
I'll have
geez.
to extend that to everyone else. So hopefully you guys don't keep extending and extending.
Okay.
Next person I'll thank you is Danny Hakinen. And then Giselle, if you can get ready after that. So Danny, go ahead. So introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Danny Hakinen, and I am also a candidate for City Council. This is, in fact, my second run for City Council. I ran 4 years ago against Sarah. And it's not my first foray into any level of politics because I've also been the candidate for the United Conservative Party in 2023, running provincially. I'm an Edmontonian born and raised. I grew up in Lymburn. I spent some time living in Westridge while attending university, where I have a degree in psychology, where I was trained for lab research and data analysis. And for the better part of a decade, I'm a small business owner with 3 locations, 2 in Edmonton and 1 in Sherwood Park. I currently reside in Garapi, or Lessard as we call it, where I've called it home for the last 5 years, spending most of my 41 years in the riding. And I've seen a lot of change. I was also, after my first attempt for council, I realized my weakness was on governance. So I spent a fair amount of time on a number of boards, federal, provincial, and not-for-profit, as well as community, with such boards as Community Options for Children and Families, where they help kids with complex needs, or the EIC, the Edmonton Intercultural Center, which is an incubator for other not-for-profits so that they can not be reliant on continued funding, that they can stand on their own 2 feet. And I think that this collection of experiences, my background and my business experience, because I built a business that runs without me, will allow me to govern the city and provide an insight that has been missing over these last 12 years.
Great. Danny, are you done? You're short. You get, I'll extend later. You saved yourself. You're about 25 seconds early. So, all right. Well, I love it. And by the way, it's in fairness to Daryl, he plugged his companies, even though he's retired now. I think if you want to, feel free to plug yours, right? So you said 3, but you're welcome to plug them. So,
That's fair. I won't use this to benefit them, so I'll leave it there.
okay. All right, Giselle, you're up. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Very, very keen to learn about you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Giselle General, and I'm also a second attempt candidate running for City Council. I challenged Sarah Hamilton in 2021 and was second place, so just right behind her. So I am from the Philippines. I immigrated here or was brought over here as a teenager through the category of family class for orphan children. My parents died when I was 8 years old, raised by extended family, and Edmonton shaped my young adult life. I've lived here ever since. I have a business degree, and I actually helped run a family business growing up in the Philippines. I also had a lot of experience in the not-for-profit sector and in governance. So from helping student politicians, helping in my neighborhood, the neighborhood community leagues, I sat in city governance boards like the Edmonton Transit Service Advisory Board. So I know how the city hall works inside and out. At the same time, I am one of those people who truly have to rely on city services. I'm a non-driver. I have to take the bus and walk around in icy sidewalks. I have heard from people about how city services need to function. I've served in multiple nonprofits, and I'm a columnist for 2 Filipino newspapers in Alberta. My approach and my commitment to the city is to be an elected leader that is accessible, accountable, committed, and present for those that I hope to serve. Again, Giselle General, running for City Council in Sipiwiyiniwak. Thank you.
Wow, you guys are great, very efficient.
We
You
know how
all
to respect time. We've been through this a lot.
well, great. All right, so Roger, you're next.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
Good morning. My name's Roger Koch and I'm running for Ward 7. And my background is all basically economic. It's all business. I've been a businessman ever since I was 17 years old. I started building my first house at that age. I was an Edmonton contractor for many years. Built over maybe 200 homes in Edmonton. I was a heavy equipment contractor, stockbroker. I've done projects in Belize, Central America, Ukraine. As a matter of fact, I'm involved right now in a biotech company, which is the foremost in the world in Alzheimer's research. And we have a monoclonal antibody, which is going to be forefront next year. Is going to be showing that we can stop Alzheimer's dead in its tracks and without any side effects. And so that's going to be my most, I would say, my most history would be starting that up. And matter of fact, doing the financing for that, which when you get a biotech company, you drain money like it's just going out of style. So it was nice that we could attract the Boston Red Sox into being one of our major shareholders, which is quite an accolade to get that done and get us to fast track our FDA approval. I've also brought in wind generation, a wind rotor from Ukraine Academy of Sciences, which is the foremost in North America right now, which I'm going to get Red Deer Polytechnic to develop. That I'm going to get that funded by the federal government because one of my lawyers who just got to be the MP for Edmonton Centre is Eleanor, and she's the Minister for Economic Development in the Prairie region. So I bring a lot of stuff to the table. The reason I'm running is because I've never seen in all my years the chaos, the destruction that the last 4 years that these people have caused in our city, and this has got to stop. And it's going to be extremely hard to get the city turned around. And you're going to need people with a lot of guts and fortitude to do that. And I'm that kind of person that's going to do that. And I'm going to actually do that for accolades. You don't even have to pay me. I'll just pay for my gas, and that's good enough. And I'll turn this city around. Anyway, Ward 7, October 20th. Thank you.
Right on. Okay, Roger, thank you. 2 minutes, 11 seconds. So, all right. The intro. So there were 3 other candidates who haven't been able to join us. One has not responded at all, and that was Bassam Perez. 2 texted me last night, said that she's got another conflict at this time. I asked if she would send her responses and I would read them out. I haven't received them, but if she does, I'll before I post this, I may put it as an addendum. And likewise, Ken Ropeson, his mom is taken ill, and so he's at the hospital with her right now, so he wasn't able to join us. So, but on to the questions now. I'm going to go again with Daryl, and then Dan. We'll just keep this rotation for now, but then I'm going to skip ahead with each question. And so, Daryl, you will be the first on this one, but the last on the next one. Okay, so, all right. So, Daryl, first the question. Again, I have to read it because I'll be clipping out the first part because Daryl pointed out that I missed your intros. One of the best ways to understand a person's likely future actions is by looking at their past actions and affiliations. So to that end, could you please let us know if you are or have ever been a member of any provincial or federal political party? And if so, which ones and for how long? All right, starting with you, Daryl.
Great. Currently, I'm not a member of any provincial or federal party. In years past, I have been a member of the Provincial Conservative Party. So that is in years past. It's now been a number of years since I've been a member. How I would describe myself would be a caring capitalist, probably, and socially moderate, fiscally conservative, if I was to describe myself.
And for how long were you a member of the Conservative Party, roughly?
1 year.
1 year. Okay.
I sprung for the annual membership.
Right. I know that well. Danny, you're next.
Thank you, Vince. So for the last 4 years, I've been a member of both the provincial and federal Conservatives. On it, that's the last 4 years. On and off, I've been a member throughout my lifetime. Generally, not having a membership when I've become severely disappointed with leadership. So I think I absolutely let my membership lapse when, as an example, Alison Redford was the premier. And what disappointed me the most is she got caught on something and said, well, technically what I did wasn't illegal. And that infuriated me because for an elected official to say technically, and that was the standard we were going with, I wanted nothing to do with giving them any more money for that. But as for how long over my life, couldn't begin to tell you.
Seems fairly long from the sounds of it. Giselle, what's your background on this particular question?
Since I got my citizenship as a young adult in 2012, I diligently voted in every election, but I have not gotten a party membership, federal or provincial at all. I have, of course, fulfilled my commitment as a citizen and voted every single time and had looked beyond the party and also looked at the candidates running for the particular ridings. And I must say that's actually in 2021, that's why I ran municipally, because I wanted to be able to offer myself and what I have to stand for and work on functional, practical concerns at the city level. And same thing though, if I happen to continue working in volunteering or city council, I will work with all people from different political stripes. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, what's your background in terms of membership?
Okay, so I'm not going to address that question, and that question shouldn't actually, I believe, shouldn't be asked. Here's the problem with that, is I have to deal with ministers and depending which party it is. So I go into a meeting and I'm a member of a different party, and somehow they go on the internet and find that out or whatever. So that's not going to be really appropriate. I have to deal right now with a Liberal MP from Edmonton Centre. So if I'm a conservative, I'm going to go and boast that I'm a conservative going and do that. I'm not going to do that. They know I'm not going to do that. I've gone to the province on many times to many ministers. As a matter of fact, the finance minister had to change policy because I forced them to change policy for both airports, major airports in Alberta, to do a different way of financing their operations. And that only took me 14 bloody years to get done. But and you can see every 4 years we might have a different party. So I've got to dance to a different group of people. So I'm not going to be affiliated with or let anybody know my affiliation. And I don't think it's appropriate, quite frankly.
Okay. Fair point. I will agree to disagree. So we'll move on to the second question. So this is with regards to a rather controversial bylaw that was passed earlier, bylaw 20,001, which gives you an indication how many bylaws you've been involved with for this. There's a lot of questions that a lot of decisions that you will have to make. But on this particular one, if you had been on city council, none of you were on council. So would you have voted for this bylaw or against this bylaw? And if you were on council at that time, please state how you would have voted and why in 2 minutes or less. So I'm going to start actually with Danny this time, but I do ask that you give a bit of background on 20,001 because people may not know it. So I'll give you extra time to explain that, Danny. And if people want to maybe give a different perspective on 20,001 when it's their turn, feel free to add to it. But if you can include in your response, Danny, the background, why it's controversial. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vince. So to be honest, it would be to answer that question. I would have to say it'd be hard to say because it depends on what information that administration brings to council and whether there is any information that they were, say, not presenting at the time, that you'd have to go as a councillor, go digging into to find it. And it also depends on, if I'd be aware enough to answer questions to try and get that out of administration. So one of the, I guess here's the thing, I don't like blanket zoning bylaws. I don't like blanket bylaws in the first place that are kind of overly general. So I suspect I'd likely vote against it. I intend to repeal it and revert back to bylaw 12,800, which is the previous zoning bylaw. And here's why. Under the blanket zoning bylaw, parking is no longer really a restriction or consideration for new development. Under the previous bylaw, it was. Communities had more say in pushback on what could be developed. So as of right now, a property can be taken down, an eightplex can be put up. We've seen it in many areas around the city. Community can't really push back like they can today. And this is a little bit nebulous, but there are some lawyers who've said that under the current blanket zoning bylaw, restricted covenants don't have as much force as they did under the previous one. So if a community got together and put on land title a restricted covenant that only certain developments could be built on their land or on these areas, it gave communities more restriction to protect the character of the mature neighborhoods. And there's some talk that that isn't actually the case with this current blanket bylaw, which is interesting because, I mean, I haven't delved into it. I'm not a lawyer, but I'd like to know why it is that's the case. But I guess to say, if I had the fulsome information, probably would have voted against it because I don't like some of what it does.
Interesting. By the way, I believe for the record that of the 13 votes passed, one was an absentee. That was Kim Cartmell, who was on vacation at the time. 10 voted in favor and 2 against. So, all right, Giselle, can you give us, if you want to add more background to the controversial bylaw and how you would have voted if you had been on council?
Check my audio here. Yes, I know part of the intention of the zoning bylaw is to have more densification in mature neighborhoods. And some of the principle underlying behind it is that in many of the mature neighborhoods, there are wonderful amenities that are already in here, short walking or busing or driving distance to parks and amenities and transit stations. And the idea is that to mitigate the trade-off of, maybe someone will take 15-20 minutes to go to a rec center. If there's more homes that are built in a neighborhood where it's a 5-minute walk away to go to the rec center, that will encourage more housing. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just providing a bit of an explainer here. However, if I had the chance to vote for it at the time, again, I know a little bit about how governance works. I might have voted yes, but put in amendments. You know what I mean? As they say in English here, like devil's in the details, right? I don't drive, but practically speaking, there will be a lot of homes that have parking, and a lot of developers took it to the extreme. Just because there are no minimum parking requirements doesn't mean that there's zero parking. That doesn't work. And even all of those practical requirements like garbage bins and behaviors of construction companies and how it destroys or disrupts the homes that are adjacent to this infill being built, that's also not strong enough. Tree protection and being mindful of green spaces, also those measures are also not strong enough. So I understand how hard it is to create bylaws. So how do you say it in English? Throwing the baby with the bathwater is also not effective, but making meaningful amendments is probably what would be my approach, just like the vote that happened this June of reducing it to 6 units. That's my time. Sorry, and thank you.
That's fine. I don't know if it's possible with council to do that. If you can vote yes with amendments, I think you have to simply say no, and then it goes back for readmission. You can make suggestions for amendments, but everybody has to vote on it in its entirety. I believe that's how it goes, but I'm not versed in municipal politics, council politics. So if anyone knows it, feel free to add. Roger, how would you have handled it if you were there and bylaw 20,001 was before you? How would you have voted?
I would definitely have voted no. We don't need densification and ruining places that are already established, and people bought those homes with the intention of having an R1 development. We've gone on a 50-foot lot. We've gone duplexes, which is not a big problem because you can have attached garages on that. Can you imagine having an 8-plex on a 50-foot lot? And that's what they're putting there. And then they're saying, well, nobody's going to have a car because they're all going to take the bus. Where the hell do you live? You don't live in Miami. You live in Edmonton. We've got minus 40 degrees weather every winter. And we're going to, 15-minute city? That's ridiculous. And now you're crowding everybody. And we have the second highest unemployment rate in the country. And all we want to do is create more and more people coming to Edmonton. No, this is wrong. And those people that live in those areas don't want it. And here's the funny thing. They don't want it. Nobody's listening. This council's ridiculous. 10 of them voted in favor of him. One refused to vote and gave some cock and bull because he's on some kind of a holiday, and that's all bullshit. Let me tell you something. We've got to throw that out, get back to where we were before, be responsible, get our city back on track, and get some economic development, get some people back to work. Never mind about densification and having crowding people into areas with who don't even have jobs. Everybody's got a card. Not everybody's taking a bus. This is ridiculous. I don't live in Miami.
Don't beat around the bush, Roger. Tell us how you really think.
Yeah.
Okay, Daryl, you are up. 20,001. You're on council. How would you have voted and why?
Sure, I would have voted against it. And probably sums it up the best this way. I went and asked Karen Principe. She voted against it. And I asked Karen, tell me why you voted against it. And she said, Daryl, I would be really unhappy if there was an eightplex beside me. So I wouldn't want to do that to one of my neighbors, or I wouldn't want to put that in a mature neighborhood. I would feel the same way. I would be upset if an eightplex came beside me in Westridge. I would. I think, though, the city needs to look at it more like districts rather than painting the entire city with one brush. We have mature neighborhoods that are unique, that have a lot of character, that are not close to commercial, that are not close to transportation, that should be looked at as a separate district. And then if you're close to commercial, you're downtown, potentially Blatchford Field coming up, or Northlands, I believe we need a lot of densification, right? And those are the areas that have services to support and where we need the high volume of residents for sure. So I would say, yeah, I know. And however, we need to make some improvements for sure down the road, which is similar to what everyone else is saying.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next one, municipal tax rates. Giselle, you're going to start on this one, but I'm going to read the question out. Edmonton has one of the highest municipal tax rates in the country. It's about 50% higher than Calgary's and nearly 4 times Vancouver's. In 2 minutes, share your perspective on this tax rate. What, if anything, would you do differently? If you intend to reduce it, how would you do so? And by how much? You're on.
Thank you very much. This is something I have heard a lot at the doors, that the pacing, the percentage increase of taxes is too much to keep up with. It's really hurting people. So going to the process, this is the 2-part plan that I plan to do if I get elected. For people who might not be aware, earlier this year, City Council has approved a new method to make assessments and decisions for the budget for the next 4 years called zero-based budgeting. It's an opportunity to look at the budget, hopefully in the truest sense of the word, line by line by line, and identify savings and efficiencies there. So if you're going to ask me by how much will I be able to reduce it, I don't know yet. I need to have the data. That being said, that only applies for the rest of the budget, not the police budget. So how would I get the opportunity to analyze the police budget line by line, because the rest of council doesn't actually have a chance to look at it? By being the Edmonton City Councilor representative at the Edmonton Police Commission. For those who are not familiar, in the Edmonton Police Commission, there are 2 council members that are in it and help make those decisions line by line, because there might be an opportunity for efficiencies in there, or otherwise there might be just clarity that says, oh, there's a lot of needs and that's why we're spending this much money for different items. So in terms of how much will I reduce it, I don't know yet, but with this opportunity for a more detailed analysis, both with zero-based budgeting and being at the Edmonton Police Commission, I hope to get answers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. 1 minute, 40 seconds. Good job. Roger, you're up.
So I've heard from people, not just in my own ward, but all over Edmonton. I'm dealing with a lot of seniors that are saying they're getting forced out of their house because they can't even afford to live there anymore because the taxes are going up. When you take a look at what we're spending on, why are our taxes going up? Well, you spend $200 million on Blatchford on thermal generation heating, which doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. You're spending $100 million on bike lanes, which nobody wants. And quite frankly, we've got to turn that around. You bought $82 million worth of buses that we can't use. The company went bankrupt. You start adding it up and you wonder where you're spending all your tax money. When you get into the police commission, let's get into that one. How would you like to fund something where they don't even give you your financials? Oh, just give me this money. Give me $350 million, but don't ask me what I'm going to spend it on. That is so totally against any kind of business ethics I've ever taught or ever learned in my entire life, and that's got to stop. I'm against this new police chief that we got. I wanted one from outside. We didn't. We got this guy. He's just a good old boys club that they're going to just be pissing away a whole pile of money. You can imagine cops getting triple time. They should go and disclose who's getting paid, what are they getting their money for, and where they're spending all this money. But they don't have to disclose it because the commission apparently isn't going to give us those financials, and they're not going to give the financials to the commission. This is wrong, and this has to be turned around. And they don't like it. We have to start getting rid of some of the cops that are in the top, get rid of them and start getting some new people involved. We're in a financial chaos.
All right. Thank you very much, Roger. Daryl, it's a big one. How are you going to handle it?
Great, good question. I think there's two ways that you can look at this revenue problem from the top side, and that is we can either raise taxes or we can sell assets. So the city has a number of assets, I think, that we can begin to sell, Blatchford Field being a big one. So definitely we feel like we've all had a tax burden that's unfair and that has really taken its toll on us. So I think that's really key. Why we're in this mess to begin with, our debt is twice that of Calgary. So just the debt service alone is really tricky for us because it's around 10% of the revenue that services the debt and the debt repayment and interest payments. So that's tricky. So now I think, tactical things we need to look at as we're going forward on the expense side of the budget. One is a hiring freeze, right? No one likes to talk about that, but that's just the reality. Anyone who retires doesn't get rehired, and there's a hiring freeze. We have more employees than Calgary does. Next is the ABC review. That means agencies, boards, and commissions. We spend a ton of cash supporting these. We have to review that for sure. Core services need to be priority over the wants, and which are some of the romantic ideas around social and environmental ideas. And then the last thing we have to really look at is our downtown tax base on commercial. We're driving people away from downtown, and as a result, that's one of our biggest revenue generators is the downtown commercial development. So how do we introduce, or how do we get people excited about going back downtown again and leasing space? So that's going to be really critical.
Almost perfectly 2 minutes, Daryl. Well done. All right, Danny, you're the last one to tackle this now. Go for it.
All right. Well, I've had this up since April on my platform. So I very much believe that a 30% increase over the last 4 years of property taxes from what the public has been able to tell me, not an appreciable increase in service requires that we do a thorough audit, both of city spending and city departments. City spending, because we need to find out how the money was spent and what did we achieve, right? The things that we budgeted for in the city plan, the things that council wanted to do, were they achievable? Did we fail, or were they aspirational and completely unobtainable? I'd like us to figure that out because everyone would like me to lower taxes. But of course, the issue with how our city budgets is that we can't reduce spending at the moment because of how we've budgeted. So I can't say we're going to reduce taxes off the hop. What I can say is we'll try and freeze them and then figure out what we can do over the next budgeting period. The reason why I want to audit departments is that if it is a matter of not money, but policy, how a department delivers service, well, that's our job, is governance and policy, right? Maybe it's a lack of communication between departments. Maybe the wording of the policies that guide departments isn't clear. We can change that as well. Something that was mentioned is the selling off of assets. And while the city does own over 900 city buildings, one of my issues with this city is the fact that it continues to sell land for under market value and then pay 10 times the amount to get it back. I think the city financially would be more prudent for leasing long-term the land so that in 10, 20, 30 years, however long we've planned, if an area is developed well and generating revenue, leave it alone. But if it's underdeveloped, then it reverts back to the city without us having to pay a dime.
Hey, 1 minute, 48 seconds. In fairness, because you referenced a previous response, I'm going to give Daryl an opportunity. You said to sell assets. So Daryl, he's pointed out a problem with that. So I'll give you a few seconds to reply. Okay.
Sure. I think maintaining the asset, that's where it becomes really tricky for the city of Edmonton. We have 800 buildings right now that we're trying to maintain and keep up to a going concern, and that is draining and using a ton of resources when it comes to employees and draining a lot of cash. And we're not getting good value from those buildings. If we're not using the building, sell the building, move on. Let's focus on core services.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now I think you're up next on this next question, Roger. I'll read the question. Crime and safety. So while recent statistics show a decline in overall crime, concerns about violence on transit lines and in the downtown core remain. And in 2 minutes, how would you address these safety issues? And if you previously supported budget cuts, how would you ensure public safety funding is protected? Roger, you're
Okay, so let's take the Hamptons for an example. They've got a severe crime problem out there, and it doesn't seem to be going away. It doesn't seem like the police are addressing the problem. They get called, they don't want to come out. They've got a crime watch program that the police don't want to be totally involved with, and I think that's got to change. You've got to have the police totally involved with diverting crime in the area. But here's the funny thing: we know where the criminals live. The community knows where the criminals live. They know which houses they live in. You know what? Like I said to some of my ex-cop friends that I said, why don't we just get one of our old cruisers that we're going to surplus and get rid of anyway, park it right smack in front of their house. Every time they leave, harass the hell out of them, stop them every time, keep them on, get it to a point where it's not affordable for them to commit crime in our area. Just, I would do a lot worse than that, but unfortunately the criminal code doesn't allow that. But I would harass the hell out of them. Anybody who's committing a crime, and if it's kids or crime, anybody under 18, the parents are going to be charged with that crime. Like if you're smashing glass on a bus stop and that kind of stuff, and we catch who does it and which kid does it, it's not my job to watch your kids. The parents are going to get charged with that particular infraction, and that's the way I would address it. I would come down very hard on community crime, and I don't think we're being hard enough on it.
1 minute, 27 seconds. You want to say anything else?
No,
you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Daryl, you're up.
Great. So one of the things in my travels around the world, when you go to a city and the city is clean, people feel differently about the city. They feel safer. They feel a little more comfortable going out at night. I've been in a lot of clean cities and in dirty cities around the world, and that is the one thing that's true. So social disorder and cleanliness do actually go together, and getting our standard back in cleanliness will in fact change how we feel about our city for sure. So I think that's the number one issue when I look at something that's tangible that we can do immediately for very little cost, and that comes to the cleanliness. You touched on a number of things with this question. I'll just highlight a couple of items, and that is the CLC officer, Community Liaison Constable. We used to have it. So if you go back 7 years ago or 8 years ago, that was almost a salesman for the police to all the community leagues, schools, and religious organizations, and really help that connection with the police inside the community, I think, which is very, very key. And then while I have a moment here, I'll just touch on one other thing that's odd about Edmonton versus a number of other cities around the world. And that's when it comes to transit and station access. typically people only have access to the station if they bought a ticket. Whereas that's not necessarily true in Edmonton. You see a lot of people in the station that are not taking transit. So again, that provides an uncomfortable feeling for all the people that are taking transit, and it's just not needed. So that is one of the changes I think that you could easily make around station access. People can go down the stairs only if they have a ticket. I think would really help clean it up and also give us a sense around comfort and security.
You are incredible when it comes to timing. It's just really, really good. All right, Danny, you're then Giselle. So go for it, Danny. How would you
All right.
handle this question?
So we can talk about crime from two different perspectives. Daryl already did. So the first issue, of course, is on the transit system on our LRTs. You know, again, the platform's been up since April, and I mentioned turnstiles and transit officers. And, you know, when I was in Italy, guess what? People pay to use the system, but also there were people patrolling the trains and the stations to make sure that the people who were there were meant to be there. And you need to give people that perspective of safety, but also those transit officers need to be able to execute warrants because they have to do more than just shoo people away, right? That you actually need to be able to be enforceable. One of the issues that hasn't been discussed yet is the fact that the federal government's bail reform needs to really happen because the city, you know, EPS can continue to arrest these people, but then violent offenders continue to get out. So it's a matter of city advocating to provincial and federal levels of government the changes that need to be seen in the justice system. But we've mentioned that police are kind of struggling to make their calls. Well, 2 years ago, roughly, there was about 178 officers per 100K residents. Today, we're at 165. The issue is that they struggle to call to service because our population's grown so much and we just don't have enough people. Also, a good proportion of their time is spent on administrative duties as opposed to actual, you know, policing. So there needs to be some kind of give and take there. We need to find them the support they need to be able to actually go out and be in the communities and do the good work. But also, what I appreciate is they've partnered with organizations like REACH. So sometimes, you know, if there's an issue, REACH will, and their crisis diversion hotline will go and deal with it because it doesn't require a police officer, right? It requires something else, but they liaise with the police. So it's a more fulsome system that we have, but it's a complex problem, right? It's just not hire more bodies. There's a lot more to be done there for policy.
I'm guessing you guys all have stopwatches. That's why you're all getting so good at this. Giselle, you're up. What do we do with this problem?
Danny copied half of my responses, and I love it because we were in those workshops and forums, and I align with a lot of it, especially with the supporting of the other diversion programs like Reach Edmonton, because I have used it here in my home, in my neighborhood. Someone is kind of like overdosing and unwell. We did not call 911 because there's not trouble, but we called 211 instead. The crisis diversion van went over here and it helped this person. So it's really important to think long term. You know, if someone cannot shelter in the LRT, what happens to them? Is there any support so that they can turn their lives around and get the supports that they need? So, and this is exactly why I want to be the council member at the Edmonton Police Commission, because there are different factors that are at play here, whether it's human trafficking, gangs in youth, and the desire to have more the community liaison officers back in the neighborhoods, which I heard is a really great thing, and also partnerships with existing organizations like Bent Arrow Healing Society in transit stations. They have this great team up with a peace officer and a social worker together, helping the vulnerable people in the LRT station so that they're not just shooed away, but they are eventually convinced to get long-term healing and treatment that they need, so they're off the streets forever. So that is part of what I also would like to advocate for from the preventative side of things and thinking long-term so that that safety actually is considered from that holistic picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. 15 seconds to spare. All right. So Roger began this one, correct? Yes, he did. So I'm gonna switch questions 5 and 6 because I think 6 actually follows along with so I'm going to begin the next one as question 6. And so we are now back with Daryl. So I'll read the question. It has to do with homelessness and food insecurity. To highlight the scope of the issue, around 2,500 people in Edmonton are homeless, but more than 43,000 now rely on food banks each month, about 5% of our population. What specific actions would you take to address food insecurity and help ensure families can afford the basics?
Awesome. Thank you. I'll just share a little bit about my experience. Over the years, we've been involved as a family with the mustard seed. And honestly, that was probably the only experience I've had over the last 10 years around homelessness, around food insecurity. And that is going and serving a meal usually we're doing it every 6 months. At Jet Label, I'd grab my team and we'd go down and buy the meal and serve it. So I didn't have very much contact. And as a result, not a lot of knowledge, right? You'd sort of feel good about serving a meal and then you'd move on and I'd carry on my normal way. Over the last 6 months, so I think I'm receiving a little bit more of an education and I've got a long way to go. But in the limited knowledge that I have on this subject, I don't see a lot of cooperation between the different shelters downtown and the different agencies downtown. And I think that's really tricky. And I don't have a solution. I would love to ask them what their solution would be because it seems like they're all very worried about funding and they're competing with each other. And I think that is a problem. Again, this is probably on this panel. I would say there's a number of people that are smarter than me on this topic. However, I think that is asking, right, how can we do it better? And I would not be the expert for sure, but also the Alberta provincial government needs to be involved.
Good. This is the first time you've been early. Good job. All right, Danny, question 6, homelessness, food insecurity. How would you handle this?
Well, on the subject of we only have 2 minutes, but on the subject of homelessness, I actually have a proposal that I created on my platform. I'd be working with the federal and provincial government to create shipping container housing. It works in other parts of Canada, it works in other parts of the world, but I would recommend anyone watching this video go to the platform and read it there because the question on food insecurity, I think, is the more easier one to answer, or that was most of the end result of your question. So the city of Edmonton actually has a Beyond Food program, which provides significant support beyond just food. It provides access to government programs, tax assistance, discount food options, and employment and housing support, which I think is really great because you don't know what's available to you. Right. My time in university, I'd ask a question, I'd get an answer, but no one was willing to give me what the next question would be. Right. I had to struggle by myself. But by having a city organization or program that actually helped you figure out what the next thing would be, so you know what's available, I think that's really powerful. If the program shows strong results, so again, I'm a big fan of auditing, data analysis. If the program shows strong results, shows that it's working, and towards food insecurity and poverty, then I believe the city should reprioritize some of its spending to better fund the program, especially if it gives us concrete results. And I just want to correct your number, if I may, Vince. I'm sorry. 4 years ago, it was 3,100 people. Today, it's over 5,000. So the problem's actually worse than you think.
In terms of homelessness, what you're saying. Is that right?
Yes, in regards to homelessness, it is significantly worse.
Okay. All right.
But you wouldn't know. We're the ones in the mix, so that's why we know.
Yeah. So, is there more? You're wrapped. All right.
I'm wrapped up. I'm good to go.
Okay. Giselle, you're up. How would you handle the issue of homelessness and food insecurity? And I apologize if my numbers were incorrect.
It's all good. I mean, stats take time to compile and whatnot, so it makes sense. So there are multiple issues here at play, and here are some of the things I would like to propose. It's not always fun to think about, but zoning actually plays a role in having more affordable and supportive housing. We need to be okay with having more of these types of housing built in more parts of the city, so that can help with one aspect of the the homelessness piece, we need to continue supporting organizations that already do permanent supportive housing that is culturally appropriate, like Niganen Indigenous Housing Ventures. They got funding and land just this summer. We need to continue that and have more of these facilities all over the city, and continue partnering and supporting existing collaborations like with Bent Arrow and Reach and all these organizations. When it comes to helping with food insecurity, empower residents to be part of the solution. Like there's a neighborhood community league right here that they wanted to pilot a mini food bank for their neighbors. Let's get out of the way and help them make this if that is what they wanted to do. And at the same time, a model that I'm really, really a big fan of is C5, this organization or partnership with 5 not-for-profits in the Northeast. They provide, a more customizable food bank of some sorts for the residents in the area. They provide free childcare for those who need it, and a separate office for education and applying for government supports, a resume building so that they can empower themselves. It's an interconnected issue. Housing, transportation, and food are basically a big chunk of people's everyday needs. Anything the city can do to help alleviate the cost in one will help with the others. Thank you.
Again, are you timing yourself? Are you timing yourself? Because you're very good at with it. Roger, homelessness and food insecurity. What can we do about it?
Well, I had the unfortunate experience here on Sunday. I didn't think I would have, but I went down to 98th Street and I think at 105th Avenue or anything. I had to go to one hall and address some residents down there. And I saw just about 2 blocks of homelessness. It was like a whole total different city. I've never seen my city in such disarray like that. There's tents every bloody place. And I guess the shelter was full. I guess that's why they're staying outside. But I'd like to know what is the root cause? Is it drug related? Is it, if it's unemployment, well, that's the area that we can fix. But I want to know what these people, why it keeps on getting greater and greater and greater. Last year, Jason Nixon, who was the housing minister, he opened up more rooms when it was minus 30, minus 40. And talking to Jason, he says, you know what? I open up these bloody rooms and they don't want to come. We say you can't bring your guns, your knives, your drugs. Oh, well, if that's the case, I'm not going to come. Well, then I said to him, well, Jason, you only can do so much. And then the hell with it, you can't do any more. If people refuse to take the help, then there's nothing more you can do. So we have to categorize which people are the ones that we can help, because there's obviously going to be some that you can't help. I remember one of our most famous premiers, and he said, I'll give you a hand up, but I'm not giving you a handout. And that resonates so well. We've got to take care of those that need it. There's a lot of mental health issues that we're going to have to hire. We get psychiatrists out there. They're going to have, what can you do with those people? We can't institutionalize everybody. We can't keep on throwing money at something that doesn't work. We have to figure out in other regions what works and then adopt that same strategy. Because it's terrible. When you go down, the Chinese community, for example, they came to me and said, you know what? Look at our elders can't even go out in our Chinese manor because they're getting accosted by these people on the street. Then we got to stop this. Somehow this has got to stop. So we'll look at different regions and how they handled it, and we'll have to adopt that, whether be harsh or whatever. But we'll help those that need help, and those that we can't help. Well, that's our system.
Great, thank you, Roger. Hand up instead of a handout. Was that Ralph?
That was Ralph. Yeah, that was King Ralph.
I figured. Sounds like a Ralphism.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to go back now to question 5. And Danny, you're up. Council collaboration. As one vote out of 13, how do you plan to achieve your goals? Who do you endorse for mayor, if anyone? And what qualities do you look for in colleagues you can collaborate with on council? That's kind of how I phrased it, but if you want to go beyond that, you understand the nature of the problem, so by all means, how do you handle it?
All right, fair enough. So I'm just going to speak for myself on this one, assuming a worst case scenario that council remains unchanged and the incumbents get back in, because I look at the lack of, for me, what has been a lack of leadership or even a lack of admission that some of their decisions weren't the best. What I hope to do is that I think the best way forward is frame the problem and the solution in their language, right? So I'm a business owner. I'm a science grad. I'm a scientist. So I need to find out what is valuable to them, how they speak, how they see the world, frame the problem and the solution in their language so that I'm more likely to get them on board and get support. But I suspect there will be significant change. And so, what I hope to see from my colleagues, both whether they're incumbent or brand new, is no preconceived notions, right? The last 4 years, if you were an incumbent, whatever happened, that happened. I think we can agree there were some missteps. Let's move forward. Let's be a little bit more mindful. I don't whatever. So long as what we're doing actually improves the city in the interest of the people, right? That's all that matters. I'm cool with having my ideas be modified. I'm hoping that they'll be fine with their ideas being modified, right? Ego is put aside. It doesn't matter whose idea it is. It just matters that the city works well. But I don't have any endorsements for mayor. I actually have a lot of questions or issues with many of the candidates for different reasons. So there's none that really stand out to me as a surefire winner. You know, just is what it is. And also, I'm not going to endorse any of them because I may well have to work with one of them, whether I endorse them or not, or support them or not.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Giselle, how would you work with others?
Luckily for me, because all of my involvement is at the municipal level, I already have a positive reputation of being collaborative, being nerdy. I read the agendas, I show up at meetings. I've sat through hours and hours of board meetings. They know I function in those environments really well. And the perspective I bring in my advocacy and community service is the lived experience of everyday people. So that is the approach that I will do at council. Remind everyone about how will this literally look like it for someone who's just walking down the street in winter or waiting to take the bus or lining up to get their books at the library. And someone who might have to deal with the construction as they travel around, especially here in the West End. I live near the malls. I live near the mall, so I'm sure you know how that's like. And as far as endorsements, I don't have any particular choice either. What I would say is for the people who have already been at council at least once, I know it might be slightly easier because at least they know how city governance works. If we have a brand new person who has never chaired a city council meeting, they might have a steeper learning curve, but I will do my best to help them because chairing meetings is a different skill set altogether, and I know that very well. And I think collaboration also goes beyond council. It's important to have good relationships with the MP and the MLAs over here. There will be 3 MLAs here, 1 MP, school board, 2 or 3 school board trustees because of the overlap. It's important to get to know them, meet up with them, especially in issues that have some overlap, and ensure that everyone is up to speed with what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. You're doing really well with time. So, Roger, how will you work with others on council?
Well, collaboration is going to be a big issue, and I'm going to bring mostly economic reform to the city, and it's going to be based on data, based on not just what Roger Koch wants, but what's good for the city and what's good for economic development. And I'm going to bring in different people into this. I'll bring the province together. I know most of the ministers, so I can do that. And I'm going to get like I said, the MP for Edmonton Centre involved. As far as collaborating with the rest of council members, I think that showing data and saying, listen, this is what we can do. One example would be we got to start our own bank. Our banking fees are astronomical. We can have our own bank and save millions of dollars. You save millions here, a few million there. Pretty soon you've got a whole pile of money, so you don't have to look at people to raise taxes all the time. As far as endorsing anybody for mayor, I absolutely endorse nobody. Actually, I'm very sad that Daryl Friesen is running for council, because I wish Daryl was running for mayor. I would have been supporting Daryl for mayor, but I think he'd make a fantastic mayor. And I think if I was in working in council with him, I mean, there would be wonderful things we could achieve. But unfortunately, I don't have that to look back on right now. So anyway, I said when I started this, I'm just going to speak the way I usually speak, and I'm not going to look at the I've dealt with politicians all my life. It's quite frankly, it's an ugly, dirty job. So, I'm just going to say it the way it is. If people don't like it, well, that's too bad.
Okay, Roger, thank you very much. Daryl, how are you gonna? You've been placed in an interesting position for this question. I think it's quite timely. You're
Yeah,
up.
for sure. No, thank you, Roger, for the shout out. I had a chance to take my director education program at the U of A. So got my ICD.D accreditation and I learned a lot. And that's a few years ago. And sort of how a board operates. And that is nose in, but fingers out. And I think that is one of the things that council really struggles with right now. If you go back 4 years ago, we elected 13 people, right, in total, including the mayor, with 13 very individual and unique ideas of how they want to get something done. And for me, when I look forward, how can I be part of a team? Really, because as council, you're now part of a new team starting on October 21st, and you should have a singular goal of moving the city forward. So my expectation would be more around effort and commitment and being vulnerable as a team member and being able to discuss as you go back and forth different ideas. I think that that's important. Building the relationship is really, really key also with those people so you trust each other. If you don't trust each other on city council and that private conversations remain private, then you won't have a relationship. So for me, it's sort of trust is one of those key components. The last question was around who do you support for mayor? I think I could work with any of the mayors if they get elected and if I have the chance to serve. Probably, if you were to ask me right now, Tim is who I would support for mayor. So I'm part of on the Better Edmonton slate, part of Tim, and I agree with a good portion of what he says. Some of the things that he says I don't agree with. And we will have some very constructive debate around it and hopefully come up with an even better solution as we're moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, your time almost dead on. All right, so one question left, guys. You're doing great. I'm learning a lot from you. All right, so ward specific concerns. So I think we're up to you're the starter this time, I believe, Giselle. So every ward has its own unique challenges. For ward Sipiwiyiniwak, all right, I'll try again. Sipiwiyiniwak. I think I'm getting a little better. Okay, what do you see as the top three issues? It doesn't have to be three, Giselle, but if it's top issues facing local residents, and for each, what specific actions would you take to address those concerns?
Okay, am I starting?
No, it's Giselle.
Oh,
you're
Giselle.
starting.
Okay, sorry about that.
Fantastic.
Oh, am I?
Are-
I think it's Giselle.
Sorry, are we
it is
good?
Giselle. You're good. You're up.
All right, ward-specific issues, transportation, city services, and densification. And these are deliberate terms for a reason. I say transportation because the problems in Elmwood and Edgemont is related to transportation. They just manifest differently when it comes to speeding or parking or road infrastructure. And I'm gonna lump in there the LRT construction as well. I live by the one of the future LRT stations. It's been an adventure. Let's just put it diplomatically. Densification manifests also two ways. In mature neighborhoods, it's infill. In the new neighborhoods, it's brand new growth. And there are concerns about that. If there's more homes in here and more people and more cars, are we going to be able to live cohesively? So that is the broad category that I have over here. And I said, finally, is city services. People want more classes available in the libraries and rec centers, or more efficient 311 responses when people make complaints that that is a city service, or when they call the police or try to take the bus to get around. They want services that meet their needs, that is timely and reliable. So those would be the and I think safety and all these other things, taxes are kind of like incorporated in, and those are broad city issues anyways, but these are how I would summarize the ones within the ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, ward-specific issues. What do you got?
Okay, so first off, Wedgewood Ravine needs to repeal the low-cost housing proposal that they're putting at the park. Nobody wants it. That wasn't supposed to be the intent when we developed this with Irv Kipnis. I was part of that development, and that was never going to be for low-cost housing. We don't need it here. As Daryl said before, put it in Blatchford or put it in where the Coliseum is. That's where you should put something like that, and don't put it in an area where you have $2 and $3 million houses. Definitely not. And somebody says, well, that's prejudicial. No, it's not. Those people worked hard enough in their lives, spent enough money for education to be doctors and lawyers, what have you, and they don't want low-cost housing there. And that just creates more crime. Another thing is crime in itself. We've got a big problem in the Hamptons, and we've got to crack down on that. I hear from people all the time. We know that I'm on the community crime watch in the Hamptons, and it just seems like it never ends. That's something that's got to be addressed ASAP. Another big one is taxes. But taxes I can take care of, because taxes, all it's going to be is economic growth. We have zero economic growth. We have nobody on council who has any economic experience. You know, you can get so excited when you take a look at what's happening in the world in AI. Don't just look at Edmonton. Take a look at what we can develop here. Thorium, for example. I don't know if you've heard about that, but thorium now is you can power nuclear reactors with thorium. Canada has one of the largest thorium reserves in the world. So there's something new that just came out that we could do. They're doing this in India. I have a great connection with the Indian community. We can bring in the Indian ministers from different provinces to invest in Edmonton, where Edmonton can make money off it and offset taxes. We don't have to have residential tax base as the number one source of revenue. I mean, you take a look at Uber, you take a look at Skip the Dishes, you take a look at DoorDash. Matter of fact, I know the DoorDash people. They didn't make millions, they made billions of dollars. Why does everybody go public? Is because they make billions of dollars from it. We should be adopting that kind of a theology and start capitalizing on our strong points. And the city of Edmonton can do it. They can be a leader. Everybody says you can't go into business. Yes, we can. We're in EPCOR right now. Is EPCOR being utilized to its efficiency? I don't know. They've got the Grand Prairie is going to need 1 megawatt if they get their data center. Are we going to be supplying that power? There's so many things that we've got to start looking at to generate revenue, and not just millions, but billions of dollars, because that's where it is. AI is going to be taking over the world. We better be at the forefront of that and not be in the last people coming up with anything in Edmonton. That's for damn sure.
Interesting. A little over there, but it's the last question. So I'm going to give you guys a wrap up if you want it. If you don't want it, that's okay. But Daryl, ward specific concerns, what you got?
Sure. This is what I'm hearing at the doors. First is infill in mature neighborhoods. So an amendment needs to be made to our zoning bylaw, 2 to 4 units, parking required, mature tree guideline, architectural guideline. So those are in the mature neighborhoods. And again, not everywhere. So that's number one. Number two, value for taxes. So we hear this quite commonly around value for taxes. Are we focusing on core services? Are people working downtown at the permitting desks? There's a lot of challenges around that. I think City Council needs to set the example. And I think we need to go back to work. Right. And I think the time with Zoom is over. And I think everyone needs to show up in person at City Council or at City Hall for a council. And then as a result, senior leadership. And then as a result, it'll trickle down from there. We will get more people back downtown, which is important. And also we'll reset the culture. It seems like the culture is broken. And again, I'm only looking in from the outside, but I think that that's important from a culture standpoint. Then I feel we'll get better value for services when it comes to taxes. And then the last one is if you're trying to go to downtown from the West End, it is a nightmare. And I'm not sure why we decided to do every single construction project at the same time. Just a slight amount of oversight regarding one project at a time if it directly affects another project, right? You can only do one at a time if they have impact on each other. It is the amount of time that people are spending in traffic and frustration. I'm hearing that at the doors, especially now since school has started. And it's hard. It's hard for families.
Thank you very much. Danny, last question, last person to speak. Make it matter. What are 3 ward specific concerns?
Thank you, Vince. Well, so not only this feedback not only comes from the doors, but I've also had a survey running since April. So this actually comes from the public as well. The 3 issues are property taxes, homeless encampments, and infill in that order. So I think I've made my point on property taxes pretty clear, not just what we need to do, but how we need to do it to provide clarity and justification for how we spend the money going forwards. Infill, I made that pretty clear as well. I'm actually pretty pleased to see the results from, if you've heard of them, Edmonton Neighbors United or Neighborhoods United. I scored a 3 out of 3 on their views. And while not an endorsement, they're not endorsing anyone. It feels pretty good to know that I've got the backing there. But let's talk about encampments, right? I think I'm one of the few people in the city that's actually talked about a proposal for homelessness. So I believe that, like I said, it works in I mentioned shipping container housing. It works in Nova Scotia. It works in Finland. It's worked in other parts of the world. So here's what I propose. Edmonton needs to work with the federal and provincial government in order to build the shipping container housing, because it is an issue across all levels of government. And this housing is great because it's portable, it's secure, can be built quick, and compared to what a shelter would cost, a fraction of the price. What some people probably don't know, and this comes from our federal MP who told me this 4 years ago, is that between 2011 and 2021, Edmonton has received $5 billion to go towards homelessness. And the problem over the last 4 years has only gotten worse. So I propose not a radical change, but a proven one. And my platform calls to put it in Blatchford. I mean, the city's spending 2% of its budget to develop it anyway. We put people that, and you do a Venn diagram, people who are financial, mental health, addiction, whatever the case might be, you funnel them to the proper supports. But the people who want help off the streets, you treat them like they're people. You put them in that community, you make sure that they've got the wraparound supports they need. And then that allows us to renovate the shelter spaces, because you might not know this about the shelter spaces, but they're not really designed for long term, right? In at night, out in the morning. So I'd like to see us renovate those so that those people that don't want the help, you know what? You can go there. You can go to the shelter spaces. This would help improve downtown and the number of people milling around, especially open air drug use. To work along with it's a complex problem, but we've mentioned policing and crisis diversion as well. It's a lot of different hands, a lot of different moving parts that need to work together, but it's something the city's never done. I think it's worth considering, and I'd only need $254 million from the other levels of government to build it. So it's a fraction of $5 billion, but some people question it. But I think we have to agree what we're doing isn't working. So let's try something new.
You're pushing 3 minutes. All right, good. Okay. Wrap up. Before we get to the wrap up, so I just want to say I'm impressed with all of you. I think you would all make great councillors. I think what we have here with you 4 is just an excellent representation of what a council should look like. All of your voices really should be at the table, because you all bring specific points of view that represent a lot of Edmontonians. But I don't know how it's all going to play out. I'm going to give you each, let's say, a minute to wrap up, and I'm going to work in reverse order this time. So we'll go Roger, Giselle, Danny, and then Derek. Okay, so Roger, 1 minute wrap up.
Okay, so my platform is basically going to be economic development. When you're busy working, you don't have any time for anything else. So when you're busy working, that means that the economy is running well. Everybody's got jobs. You don't have the second highest unemployment in the country, and you're going to be able to afford the expenses that you have with you and your family. You're not going to have to be looking for a job every second day, and that is by itself going to lower taxes. It's going to give you more of the amenities that we have in the city of Edmonton. It's going to lower our expenditures, because we're not going to be just reliant on property taxes that we're doing right now with our public. economic development has got to be to the forefront, because everywhere I go, everybody's asking for more money. The firemen's union want more money. The police are always asking for more money. We got to look into that one. That's for damn sure. But at least economic development, this is where we're going to be going in the next 4 or 5 years for sure, with AI technologies and that. And we have to be at the forefront of that. We have to get our fiscal house in order, not just pay for everything that everybody wants.
Perfect. Thank you, Roger. I've really enjoyed your perspective. All right. Giselle, 1 minute wrap up, please.
Uh-oh.
Fantastic. So my commitment is in my slogan: accessible, accountable, always there for you. I have shown that in my community endeavors, in my volunteering, in my immigration story, and I will continue that commitment when elected at City Hall. So my platform and everything about me on my website, gisellegeneral.ca, and I encourage everyone to remind people to vote. We are not getting the voter information cards. Please do your best to spread the word. Help other people identify where their polling station is, because they might not even know or might trouble using the internet. Let's do our part so that voter turnout is above the 37% we had in 2021. This is a very important election. Please vote and encourage people to do so, because it will play a big role in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. Thank you for the reminder. I'll add the links to where people can vote to this. So, yeah, great points. Okay, Danny, 1 minute wrap up, please, sir.
Perfect. Folks, thank you for spending time with us today. I hope you do your due diligence, review the people that you've seen today, and you ultimately have to decide a hard question: who best represents you? I think there's a lot of strong candidates, but the difference between all of us will be our collective perspectives, our connections, and our focus. And I think that giving communities their voice back again, having proper engagement, is key. I'd like to think that, having been the executive or leader of several not-for-profits, serving hundreds of thousands of people throughout the city in the last 4 years, I've got the governance experience, I've got the practical real-world business experience, and the fact that my background in psychology was in data analysis means that when administration comes to us with the facts, I can do my due diligence and figure out what they're testing and what it means. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. All right, the last one, last but not least, Daryl, 1 minute wrap up, please.
Great. Thank you, Vince, for hosting us. In closing, an election marks the start of a new chapter for the city. I want to ground us in my vision for the next 4 years, and thus our vision: strength and transition. So strength and transition doesn't just mean charging ahead without doubt. It means leaning in and listening to our citizens for perspective, for honesty, and partnering with our communities for courage when the path isn't clear. So, Vince, as we start this journey together to make the city safer, more affordable, and continuing the necessary investments in our core services, we'll gain clarity, courage, and connection, because in transition is where a very bright future of this city lives. Thank you.
Thank you. You're actually under. Okay. Great job, guys. Thank you very much. I found this to be very, very educational. And so I appreciate you all taking the time. How long were we? We were 75 minutes. So, all right, I'll post this up as fast as I can and put out a transcript as well. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Vin.
Good luck, everybody.
Thanks. Good to
Thanks
see
for
you all.
having us.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.